Hey, what's up guys? John here for episode 2 of the kidney transplant vlog. First and foremost, just want to say thank you so much to all of you who are reaching out, checking in on us, praying for us. Man, your support is amazing, and I can't tell you how much that means. I want to, as of right now, today it is 11:30 a.m. on Sunday the 5th. Still no call, so just a quick update if you just want to know if that's what's going on. Still no call, but what that means is my donor is still alive. So let's please continue to pray for that person and their family, because that is what's heaviest on my heart right now. So thank you guys for that, and pray that you keep doing that with me, and I'll do my best to keep you updated. So one of the main questions I've been getting after that first video is essentially like, dude, what the heck? Like, how do you have, why do you need a kidney transplant? A lot of people reaching out from like high school and whatnot, like, dude, I didn't know you were sick. Like, what are you talking about? And so what I decided to do today in this video is to just fill in the backstory of kind of how I've gone from healthy to unhealthy, from kidneys to basically no kidneys, and how does that happen? So I'm just gonna fill that in for you, and you're in for a treat. You all probably remember my mother from the first video. If you don't, it's this person. I know that's a very flattering flattering video of my mom, but my mom is absolutely awesome. So I talked to her and said, hey mom, you've been in this with me the longest. Would you mind if we just chatted and you can kind of tell the story of what life's been like, and how it's all gone, how we got from there to here. So you're in for a treat today. My mom's gonna go ahead and fill you all in with what's going on, and and I'll talk to you at the end. Got a little bit to say, but I'll talk to you at the end. Make sure, if you're finding this encouraging, or you know some other people who are prayers, I would love for you just to kind of share this video with them and this journey with them. In my opinion, the more people we have praying for this donor, the absolute best. So yeah, without further ado, my wonderful, beautiful, hilarious mother. Brace yourselves, people.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm Jonathan's mother. You can call me Mom. So the kidney journey started with Jonathan not potty training. And I knew something was wrong, and I didn't know quite what was wrong, but I knew something was wrong. And we took him to the doctor. He was about 4, and he just 1 week he had a lot of trouble. You can edit me. He had trouble urinating, and so I took him to the doctor thinking he had a urinary tract infection. And when I took him to the doctor said, Sharon, I know exactly what he has. This is serious. You have to go to the hospital right away. He was from India, and I love him, Dr. Shah. He was the best pediatrician ever. And I love his voice too. That's not making fun, all right? And I'm not, racist either, all right? Just FYI. So anyway, he said he wanted to run some tests on Jonathan. So we went to Children's Hospital LA, and we were there for test. And after the test, the girl who did the sonogram, she said, just a minute, I'll be right back. And she went and made a phone call. And I kind of had a red flag thinking, this is not good news. And she came back, and it was Dr. Shaw on the line, and he told me it was really bad news, and that he wanted us to go home and prepare to be hospitalized. And he told me that what he had was what he expected all along, suspected all along, because a week before I brought Jonathan in, he had been in San Diego for a seminar on this very subject of post-urethral valves, which is what Jonathan had, enlarged valves in his urinary tract that prevented his urine from coming out and made it reflux back up into his ureters, which are the two tubes that go into each kidney. And then it destroyed, they go back into the ureters and go back into the kidneys. So it had actually destroyed one whole kidney, and 2/3 of his left kidney is gone. You still have a left?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 2/3 of his left was gone. This is when he's 4. So what we ended up doing was coming home and packing, and they admitted him for surgery. And what he wanted to do was relieve the pressure on the kidney and try to save the kidney. One was thrashed, but he wanted to try to save the other kidney so he didn't have to go on dialysis. And so what he did is he cut ureters, and he brought them out to the surface of the skin, and these are called ureterostomies. And ostomy is a hole in the skin. So he brought out the urinary tubes to his skin. This is when he's 4.5. So he said, we're going to relieve the pressure, but the way he brought them out is he brought them out together, and they were huge. They're supposed to be the size of pencils, and they weren't the size of pencils. They were the size of large intestines. Both of the tubes had inflated, trying to compensate for the destruction that was being caused. That's why he went 4.5 years, as long as he did. And he didn't really ever complain about pain or anything. So part of this is his fault, you know what I mean? Not really, it's not. You can edit that out, right? Anyway, so when he was free-flowing, so at that time, I know exactly when pull-ups were invented, because pull-ups were invented that year when he was 4. So what I did is I innovated. Yes, back then we were innovative. I took a sanitary maxi pad. They work wonders. So I put a sanitary maxi pad here to catch the urine, and then we put pull-ups on to hold it and to catch the rest of it. And mind you, he's free-flowing this whole time. And he had to be like that for months because he wanted to relieve the pressure off the kidneys, see if any function came back, and try to help Jonathan feel a little bit better too, because he was being poisoned by anything he consumed that was discarded through the urinary system was making him sick. So he was poisoning himself. So we did that. He started kindergarten, and the thing that I think really hit hard was he was in the spelling bee. Do you remember that? He was in the spelling bee, and he was one of 4 or 5 kids left on the stage, and he was doing so good. And mind you, he missed a lot of school. He started kindergarten, but the spelling bee was at the end of the year. And so he's missed a lot of school in kindergarten. But, you know, he's brilliant anyway, so he didn't need much school. He just came natural with it. And he's on the stage, and I'm looking at him, and all of a sudden, the maxi pad and the pull-up, they're not holding up. And he's still on the stage, and all of a sudden you just see his pants, they get all wet all over. It was so sad. And it just hit me then. He's never gonna be normal. I just felt it, and I knew he was never gonna be like normal. He was always going to have issues. They built him a new bladder to hold. That's pretty important, I guess, because his bladder was destroyed too. So they built him a new bladder out of his large intestines, a reservoir. He gets put back together 3 or 4 months down the road after enduring all of this, free-flowing urine, wet clothes all the time. And mind you, during this time, we had James, who is a baby at that time. So we had to farm out the other 2 kids because Jonathan lived in the hospital for 9 months off and on, and months at a time. He had to endure a lot of IVs. He almost died a few times. But during the death story, when he was apart like this, he would get pyelonephritis, which is a kidney infection. And he'd run really high fevers, and he'd need IV antibiotics. Orals never worked. So one time we were at Children's, and he had pyelonephritis, and he was very, very sick. And so I always stayed with him. He was never left alone, ever. And he started shaking and going into convulsions, and I threw my body on him, and I started screaming for the nurse, and the nurse came in, and he had a temperature of 104.8, and they had to ice him down under the armpits and in the groin and behind the neck, and they got it down to 102. And then they had the IV antibiotics he was on weren't working, so they had to switch those over. So he went through that too a lot. And finding veins on a 4-year-old and a dehydrated 4-year-old was pretty hard too. So he had to endure a lot of pain. So after they put him back together, he couldn't pee. So he had to catheterize every 4 hours. And they did it in the hospital for him. And so it took about, when we brought him home from the hospital, it took about a week. My husband at the time, his father, took a week's vacation, and he held him down, laid on him, every 4 hours while I catheterized him to get the poison out. So anyway, after the callus built up and he stopped, screaming at us and telling us we were killing him, he was okay with it, and we would teach him how to do it. So the problem with 5-year-olds and up is hand washing techniques. So then he would get infections. And so at that point in time, his infections were a little bit lighter at times, and he would need oral antibiotics. But often we'd go in and he'd get IVs, and then they would say, okay, we started him, we watched him, he's stabilized, so you can take him home for the rest of them. Yeah, that's another thing, is where God had control too, is he had so much radiation from the belt down growing up since he was 4. He really shouldn't have children. But you know what? They even look like him, so I know they're his. And I remember him telling Nicole when she found a catheter. Do you remember that? And he was so worried about that. And I said, just tell her, if she really loves you, she'll get it, because he really loves Nicole a lot.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about probably what I'd say is has been the most difficult part of this health journey, and that is the idea. So you heard that I've had a bunch of surgeries when I was little. I think you've heard that I had to get a whole new bladder reconstructed from my large intestines, which is kind of crazy that they could even do that. But as a result of that, probably the most challenging thing in this journey has come as a result of that. Like I've figured out how to deal with being sick. I've figured out how to deal with, just not having energy. I've figured all that out. But what that bladder reconstructive surgery did is it just completely devastated my bladder. And so my bladder it completely does not function as it's supposed to. What does it do? It essentially holds pee. It's like a big bowl, or a water balloon maybe. Yeah, like a water balloon. And because it's made of my large intestines, I don't have the ability to empty that by myself. And so what that has meant over my lifespan, ever since I was 5, I have a 6-year-old, and I can't imagine asking him to do that. And so when my mom's tearing up a bit in some of these videos, I just think man, how hard was that on my parents, and I'm just so grateful that I had such great parents who could just kind of persevere. But yeah, so as a result of that, I have not been able to go pee since I was 5, which, not awesome. And that's probably my deepest, darkest, most hidden secret. As a little kid, I grew up so ashamed of that, and I would just hide it from anyone and everyone. Maybe 12 people know about that in my whole life. But it's part of the journey, and I think it seemed like an appropriate time just to kind of fill anyone who is here in on that. It's an everyday battle still. Just to keep that bladder empty requires pain multiple times a day, and it's just not the best. But let me tell you, I'm grateful for that. If I had been born maybe 20 years earlier, I would have died a long time ago. So I try to see that aspect of my health as just God's provided that technology to be able to do that. And what it is, for those of you who don't know, it is, let's see, how do I put this delicately? It's basically, let's go back to that water balloon. It's basically like a water balloon, right? The water balloon has no ability, just imagine it hanging here full of water, has no ability to let the water out of it, right? And so what we essentially have to do is get a straw and stick it in the water balloon and let the water flow out of that straw. That's essentially what that is. So that's essentially without getting too graphic, that's essentially what I need to do in order to pee. But yeah, anyways, just wanted to fill you in case that was confusing. So back to my mom. She got a little bit more to say, and I'll see you at the end.
I think the thing that has helped is that we've always trusted the Lord, and we've always used humor, which not everybody agrees with. But it's always worked for me. Has it worked for you? It's worked for you too. Okay. How about you in the audience? I think God was a very funny guy because he created me and John. And we're an awful lot alike. It's pretty much, you look at him and you wouldn't know he was as ill as he is. And a lot of people don't understand the illness of chronic kidney disease and what it does to all your internal organs and how it makes you feel and the limitations that you have or that you can have, and how people, I've seen Jonathan push through it quite a bit. So I'm really proud of you, son, for pushing through, sometimes to his own detriment. Like when he was going to go on dialysis, and his arm swelled up this big, and he goes, "It's okay. It doesn't look too bad, does it, Mom?" And you're just like, horrified. So you take him to the ER, and they're like, "Oh, you have a blood clot. It could kill you, but it's okay." John's like, it's all right. When you have the right attitude for any disease process, you can pretty much live through anything, you know. But one thing David and I have been praying about is that this would be God's perfect timing, because it entails a whole village to help, you know, with the transplant that he's going to have. Well, Jonathan was supposed to go into total kidney renal failure by the time he hit puberty, so it's about 13, 14, and he didn't. And you're 36. He's 36 now. So God gave him a double portion of life. As far as I'm concerned, and he's concerned, God's doubled his lifespan. But I think in the end, he's going to feel a lot better than he feels right now. And that's what I'm looking forward to, because he hasn't felt good ever. I can tell you ever. There are so many horror stories that have been done to this child that I didn't tell you. I mean, but I think that's my biggest joy, is I can't wait until he feels better, you know.
You know, so my mom just shared a lot about my story and my health, and how we went from a healthy baby from a healthy baby to an adult who is in need of a kidney transplant. And one thing I just want to maybe just say to encourage you is, so it's easy to see all of this as this huge burden and this big batch of bad news, but let me remind you of how I see this. I see this as God has already doubled my life expectancy. Every single day I have is a gift from God. Every day. I'm not supposed to be here right now, you know. And as you know, my mom said, like, I'm not supposed to have kids. You know, I have 4 kids. I have 4. You can all meet them soon, but I have 4 kids. It's a miracle, and that's just a blessing of God. And my life has been so good. It's been hard, but it's been so good. And so I just want to encourage you guys. Let's look differently at these obstacles in our life, at these trials in our lives, and at these hardships. Let's look at sickness and disease differently. Let's see it how God sees it. They are tools they're not something He thrusts upon us all the time, but they are tools that He can use to mold us and shape us so that we can have a more complete life, a mature life, so we can be lacking nothing. We can live life to the full. So they're really just blessings. I'm at a point in my life where I'm kind of grateful for all of this stuff that has been going on in my life, and that I've had to, that we as a family have had just to weather. And that's because I think it's helped me grow so much in ways that I couldn't grow otherwise. And I mean that like in terms of character and perspective and things like that. And kind of what my most encouraging, I mean, it's probably not encouraging to most people, but this is my most encouraging Bible verse kind of relating to this, comes from the book of James, and it's in chapter 1, verse 2, and I'll just read it so I don't misquote it to you. I'm not trying to do heresy, no bueno. And it simply says this: "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete and not lacking anything." And that's just to say, these obstacles that we all are facing, you know, we all have obstacles. You know, mine happens to be kidney failure. But I know you have obstacles too. And what this verse is basically saying is, like, we need to change our perspective when it comes to these trials and these obstacles. You know, these are really times, they're really opportunities, you know. They're opportunities to let God grow us and build our character, and to leave us more complete, more mature people, as we trust Him through that process. And I mean, who doesn't want to be, what does it say, mature and complete and not lacking anything? You don't want to lack anything? Man, like that maturity is going to come through these trials, and having the perspective that, hey, I know life is difficult. I know this is not what I envisioned for myself or for my family, for my children or whatever. But God is working in this. And if I can stay faithful to Him through that, He's going to do something in me that cannot be accomplished any other way. And that's one way that God takes something that is so horrible and so hard and difficult and challenging and frustrating, and ultimately uses it for so much good, not only in your own life, but in the lives of all the people around you, as you can just encourage them through this struggle, as we have strength in our struggles, and as we, remain faithful and positive. And man, I can't tell you how many people have just told me how uplifting that is for them, and it's not like I'm trying to do that. I'm just saying, like, hey, I'm going to choose to believe what God says here in His Word. And so I know He's working in me. And if He's working in me, that means He wants to work through me. And if He wants to work through me, that means He's going to accomplish much in my life. And that's really the ultimate goal here, is just to give God glory, and just to share Him with you guys. So hey, I want to thank you guys for watching again, and I want to encourage you guys to continue praying for that donor, please, and their family. Continue lifting our family up to the Lord. And this next video, if I don't get a call soon, I just want to probably introduce you guys a little bit to my family, and see what a blessing that has been. Like my mom said in the video, I wasn't supposed to be able to have a family. Man, boy, do I have a family. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you share if this is encouraging to you. And again, thanks for praying, guys. All right, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Are you filming me right
Yeah.
now? You've been filming me? Why have you been filming
So
me?
you get comfortable.
Don't film me. Hi.
Bloopers.
This is your biggest blooper. Does that make sense? Nope.